What was it about Pare's dreams that bothered him so much? About the fat cows coming out of the Nile, then the thin cows, and the thin cows eating the fat cows, and the fat stalks, and the thin stalks, and the thin stalks eating the fat stalks? What was so bothersome, so perplexing about these dreams that no one could figure it out? Not even Pare's own dream interpreters and advisors. Only Yosef could figure it out, and that made him the smartest man in the world. What was so complicated about these dreams? It's talking about cows and stalks, so that seems to be talking about plenty amount of produce that cows eat and that stocks are, and minimal amount of produce coming right afterwards. Why did no one get this except for Yosef? And why did Yosef all of a sudden assert his own advice to the king about how he should handle it? He was asked to interpret the dream. The dream was that the 7 fat cows are referring to 7 years of plenty of produce. The 7 thin, sickly cows are referring to 7 years of famine and of poverty. He should have stopped there. Why did he start giving Pare advice about how to handle his country and how he should handle these dreams? He wasn't asked of that. He was a prisoner. He should have just said what he was asked for, and that was it. And the answer the Rebbe gives for this is what bothered Pare so much about his dreams wasn't the 7 cows of plenty and then the 7 malnourished cows. It was one specific detail about this dream, which is that the 7 fat cows come out of the Nile, then the 7 malnourished, thin, sickly cows come out of the Nile, and they're standing together simultaneously. Says Pare to himself, if this is referring to 7 years of plenty of produce and 7 years of poverty of produce, of famine, I could understand that. But how could famine and plenty exist simultaneously? In the dream, they were stood next to each other before the thin devoured the plenty. That's what confused him. And that's what confused Pare's advisors. They couldn't tell him that this is referring to 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of famine. Because how can we explain this paradox of both of those standing next to the Nile simultaneously? So this must be referring to something else. Rashi brings the interpretation that Pare's advisors suggested to him. It means that you're going to be, again, a king back in the day, especially in Egypt, had many wives. It means you're going to be giving birth to 7 children, 7 daughters, and then losing 7 daughters simultaneously. That explains the simultaneousness. As the 7 goods are coming, the goodness will be swallowed up in the badness that's coming. However, Yosef found a way of interpreting this dream, kipshutai, that is referring to 7 years of plenty and then 7 years of poverty, of famine, and how those could exist simultaneously. He wasn't giving Pare advice, telling him how to handle his country. He was telling him, you know what Hashem's telling you? He's telling you there are going to be 7 years of plenty, then 7 years of famine, and face those simultaneously. While you are facing the years of plenty, stock up, acknowledge that the famine's coming. Don't be blind to the next 7 years coming. Face these current 7 years with the knowledge that there are 7 other years over here of famine that are about to come. That way, when the years of famine come, they will exist simultaneously with the years of plenty, and you'll be able to survive on the surplus that you saved up from the years of plenty for the years of famine. And this wasn't Yosef's advice. This was his way of explaining and interpreting the duality. Hashem's not just telling you the problem that's coming, he's telling you the solution. Treat these utilize the benefits, acknowledge while you're in the years of plenty, acknowledge the famine's coming. That way, while you're in the years of famine, you'll be able to survive based on the years of plenty. And that's what Pare found him so brilliant. What's the lesson? The lesson is we all are bothered by the same thing Pare is bothered by. The dualities in our life. It seems like we have years of plenty spiritually. Some days we wake up inspired, on, feeling like committed Jews, committed Chassidim. And then that same day or simultaneously, we feel like, okay, whatever. We feel done with the whole thing. Sarcastic, cynical, self-absorbent. And the duality that a Jewish heart handles sometimes bothers us. I understand that some days I could have on days and off days, but how can my identity be so mixed up that I'm on spiritually and I'm off spiritually almost simultaneously? I'm a very committed Jew, but I'm also a very self-indulgent American, and where's there room for both of those to be true? So there are 2 ways of interpreting this. It doesn't seem to make sense. Pare's advisors say, yes, this doesn't make sense. It looks like you have 7 years of positive. It looks like you have positivity in your life. Look at the negativity that takes it down. You have 7 daughters. The pain of losing the 7 daughters will outweigh the 7 daughters being born. It looks like you're strong beruchnius, but look, you fall right afterwards. Or you're even falling simultaneously. But Yosef shows us that don't view this duality as a negativity. It doesn't make sense. But it doesn't make sense, doesn't mean it's fake. The fact that a Jew could be so on spiritually and so off spiritually simultaneously doesn't mean that he's a faker. It means that he's rooted in infinity, where things don't have to make sense. Hashem created a Jew not to make sense. Hashem created a Jew to merge physicality and spirituality, to merge a godly soul and an animalistic soul. It doesn't seem to make sense how those could be existing simultaneously. Exactly. Utilize that opportunity to milk the godly soul, milk the years of plenty for what it's worth, to be able to nourish even the animal soul, that the dark side of your coin and the light side of your coin are not two separate coins. But the dark side feeds warmth from the light side of the coin, and the light side of the coin acknowledges that I do have the dark side of the coin, but I could prepare properly about how to make this one harmonious coin. That the years of plenty that I live with and the years of famine that I live with, I see them as one simultaneous life and not as a impossible paradox that just causes me pain. Have a great Shabbos.